Hi, I'm Robin Worley, welcome to Lenscraft. Today I have the new Photolab 4 software from DxO. The software is on general release from the 21st of October 2020, but DxO have kindly let me have a pre-launch version, which means I can make this video for the launch. If you're interested in what's new in Photolab 4, keep watching. I'll start with a surprising statement. The simple interface changes in Photolab 4 are probably my favourite change. As much as I liked Photolab 3, I found the interface a little bit frustrating. It's not that there's any major problems with the interface, it's just that it's not very enjoyable to use. In Photolab 4, DxO has cleaned up and reorganised the controls so that they make a lot more sense to the user. If we look at the old Photolab 3 Customize tab interface where we do the editing, you can see the controls over on the right. DxO arranged the controls vertically in sections, which meant you were scrolling up and down to find adjustments you needed. In addition, you could reorganize and add controls to any of the sections as well as have them repeat. This is very flexible, but somehow not very user-friendly. We can still add and remove controls in Photolab 4, but now we have a series of tabs along the top. These organise the tools by function, making it quick to find what you need. You don't find yourself continually scrolling up and down a long list of controls. For example, if I want to apply the distortion correction for my lens, I can click on the Geometry tab and then turn on Distortion Correction. Another way that you can locate adjustments is with the new Search feature. Enter the adjustments that you're looking for in the search box and it filters the view. Just remember, the search filters apply to the Active tab, so you may need to click on some of the other tabs to check them. Another extremely useful feature is that you can mark controls that you use regularly as favourites. You can do this by clicking the little star to the right of the control. I can then click the option to filter the view to only show adjustments marked as favourites. The other extremely useful filter here is to show only the active controls. Click this filter and you see only the controls where you've applied an adjustment. Overall, these are subtle changes to the interface, but for me they've transformed the software's usability. The next thing that I want to look at are the workflow improvements. As with the interface changes, these make the software more user-friendly and, in my opinion, correct some important omissions from earlier releases. The first of these is the new batch renaming feature. In the previous version of Photolab, you could rename individual files from the menu but not multiple images. Now you can rename multiple files at the same time. If I select a group of images and then pick Rename from the image menu, it opens the new batch renaming dialog. When you use this, you find that there are three options in the drop-down that you can use to rename images. The Add text option is simple and allows you to add a set text before or after an existing file name. After entering the text to add, select the option to add it either before or after the existing name. At the bottom of the dialog, you can see an example of the current file name and how it will look once it's renamed. This is a good option if you like to preserve the existing file name but then prefix it with your own name and date of the image. If you pick the Rename and Add counter, you can replace the existing file name completely with a new name. This allows you to define some fixed text and add a counter to make the file name unique. You can define how long the counter is as well as the starting number and if it appears at the start or the end of the name. The final option allows you to search the image name to find and replace a text string. For example, I could replace DxO Prime text in these images with the words YouTube Demo. The next improvement is to the copying and pasting of correction settings. When I right-click on an image that I've already adjusted, I can select to copy the correction settings in the pop-up menu. I can then select one or more images and paste those settings to them. What's now possible in Photolab 4 is that I don't need to paste all of the settings. By selecting the option to paste selected correction settings, I can see a dialog where I can select the settings to apply. For example, if I don't want to apply the same lens sharpness settings to all of these images, I can uncheck that option. Now let's look at the new watermarking feature. Watermarking is unfortunately something we need to use a lot these days if we want to prevent others from passing off our work as their own. To help, DxO has introduced an easy-to-use watermarking feature into Photolab 4. You can use this to add either a text or image-based watermark. I'll start with the simple example to add the word watermark to this image. After I've entered the text, I can set the font and general position of the watermark. I can then use the scale and margin sliders to fine-tune its exact position on the image. There's also the option to set the blending mode and opacity of the text, which allows the underlying image to show through the text. If you create a watermark and want to reuse it in the future, you can save it as a preset using the Create New Preset button. The preset then appears in the drop-down at the top of this panel. Here's an example of an image watermark I created using my logo. You can see that there are similar controls for the image watermark as there are for the text. This is such a simple and effective tool to use, especially when you have lots of images you want to watermark. The final new feature that I want to discuss is one of the most exciting if you're a stickler for image quality as I am. If you already have DxO, you'll know how great their lens corrections are. Providing you're working with a RAW file, these settings can transform your image quality even when shot with an old consumer camera. Something else that DxO does well in Photolab is noise reduction. The standard noise reduction works well with any image format, but if you're working with a RAW file, you can use the prime noise reduction. Now, prime noise reduction is very processor intensive, so you only see a preview of a small section of the image, but you can reposition this to check different areas. What's new in Photolab 4 is something called Deep Prime, which improves even further on prime. This example image was shot at ISO 2500. If I apply Deep Prime and export the image to Photoshop, we can check it at 100% magnification. Even when I zoom in further than 100%, the image is clean, sharp and has lots of fine detail. Look how the detail on the bird's feathers have been preserved. But the thing about this example, and a lot of the other images I've been using for this video, is that DxO supplied them, and they're from high quality cameras. Some were shot with full-frame DSLRs and some are even shot with medium format cameras. This type of RAW file should perform well. So I decided to do some of my own testing with RAW files from Micro Four Thirds cameras, some of which are really quite old. Let me show you this sample file that I downloaded from the DP Review website. It's shot with a Panasonic G9 Micro Four Thirds camera at ISO 3200. When I zoom into 100% magnification, you can clearly see lots of noise. If I apply the clear view and smart lighting settings, the noise becomes even more obvious. Now watch what happens when I turn on standard automatic noise reduction. The noise vanishes, but so too does the fine detail in the image. Let's compare this with the prime noise reduction and check the results on the guitarist's hand. Prime noise reduction appears to preserve some of the fine detail in the skin, but when I switch to deep prime, the results are nothing short of amazing, with even the finest details being preserved. When I move over the eye, you can see the detail in the hair and the eyebrows. And it's the same with the old image files that I've tested. Now I don't know how this will have come across on the video because YouTube does a lot of video compression and other things. The only thing that I can say is that you need to see for yourself what this software can achieve. If image quality and noise reduction are important to you, go download the trial version of the software and test it with your own RAW files. Which reminds me, as well as all these new features and enhancements, DxO has also added support for several new cameras. I'll leave you to check the list on their website, but I'll include a link to that and the trial software in the YouTube video information. Now for the big question of how much does all this cost? As you would hope, there's a valuable launch discount which runs until the 19th of November 2020. DxO Photolab 4 is available in two versions like Photolab 3 was, and the cost depends on the version you choose. For the Essential version, the discounted price is £89.99 or £42.99 for the upgrade, and for the Elite, the discounted price is £129.99 for the software or £54.99 for the upgrade. If you want to understand the difference between the two versions, I'll include a link in the YouTube video information. And the final question, will I be upgrading from Photolab 3? Yes, I will. I find Photolab 4 much nicer to work with, and DxO has addressed a lot of the limitations of Photolab 3. But what's really sold me on Photolab 4 is Deep Prime. I just love the results. I hope you found today's video helpful. I'm Robin Whalley, you've been watching Lenscraft. I'll see you soon for another video.